Hello, my fellow peaches. Yes, I am wearing the same thing from the last video because right when I signed off, I was like, ooh, I did want to mention one more thing. And it's like Texas and where are we going to live and how I think about that now. If you have been following me for a while, you know that I move around a lot, right? I'm from Dallas, Texas. But let's see how old. When was that? 20 late 2016 or mid, I don't know. In 2016 I moved to New York City and I lived in New York City for 6 years. Man, I love New York City. We went there recently with a baby. I do not love New York City with a baby. I'll say that. There's no changing tables anywhere. Stuff like that you do not think about when you're babyless in the city running around on your moped or your boosted board. But yeah, love New York so much. We moved to Fort Worth, Texas for like year and a half, or 2 years during the pandemic. And then John, my husband, lived in LA for probably 6 years before we started dating. And so he loves California, and I had spent a lot of time in LA before that. I just had never lived there. So, we were kind of struggling in Fort Worth, and I was like, okay, let's just go for it. Let's go to LA. So we moved to LA, specifically the North Hollywood area. And honestly, like we really enjoyed it. We kind of got settled and very organized. I went into heavy nesting mode because I believe like 2 or 3 months after we moved there, I got pregnant. And I really liked the house we were renting. It was so expensive, but we were kind of on a flow there. And then, traumatic birth. Baby girl was born 3 months early. She was in the NICU for 2 months. My mom came out, essentially like moved out to California for a few months and really took care of me. Yeah, so thankful for that time I had with her. And then there was like a lot of stuff I had to figure out just with me personally and physically. Like there were things wrong. And so I didn't work really at all. I just like focused on the baby for like the first 5-6 months. And then I really started getting the itch again. And so around month 5, 6, 7 of the baby, hey man, I like got back at it and I started saying yes to brand work again. And I was just really energized and excited to get back out there. And really even though I had been yearning for something different for so long and I was really burnt out with how I was doing YouTube, I just had this theory like, okay, let's just do what you were doing, but just do less of it. Spoiler alert, it still really stressed me out. And that led me to where I am now today. And I just stopped everything. And I really am truly taking a pivot now. And a lot of that has to do with releasing studio setup, which if you ever want a dope Zoom setup with a real camera, anything from that, a basic desktop setup to like a really big overkill setup, what I've been using for content for years, studio setup shows you how to do that. And so that was the first thing that I was like, oh, okay, if I can make something like this, I can do half the amount of brand work. If I do this right, that's still up for, it's not that successful yet. So I still gotta promote it and stuff. Anyways, but so that was a big step for me to like actually change the trajectory of like how I do content and how I do YouTube and kind of blazing a path where I can just like do things that I'm actually passionate about. And I think people can feel that, right, in videos. And so that makes me excited about videos again and stuff. Squirrel. That was a tangent. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so during that time where I was like, I'll just be the same normal YouTuber and just do less stuff now with, baby Peach around. I thought that was going to be the answer, but it wasn't. I very quickly got stressed out again. But right when both John and me were kind of like, all right, world, you knocked us down, but we're going to get up and get back at it. That's when, in late August, yeah, they found the brain tumor with my mom. And obviously that just felt like all of our world was ending again. 6, 7, like half a year after everything with baby Peach in the NICU. obviously, because it was so serious, we were gonna like move to Texas instantly. But that was a whole thing in itself. Like we had just moved our entire life up to LA just like a year and a half before. And then let's move everything back, back down to Texas. And that was stressful in itself with it, but with a baby now. And so just the move itself was so stressful. And then obviously being here and having to deal with everything and like restart our life, like it was so much. We kept our storage in LA for a little bit because we didn't know what the timeline was, so it was still a possibility that we would just like go back to LA. But we started getting settled in Texas, and honestly, we thought there was a period of just a couple months where at least I thought, oh, hey, she's doing so much better. We're gonna have more time. So let's obviously like stay here and get settled here. And then, yeah, it just got super bad again. And she passed. But it wasn't even kind of a question whether, at least for us, if we were going to go back to LA. I think it was so much to just move our lives again here that just the friction of it, man, like we are so like kind of battered and bruised. I don't think we could like survive another big move like that. So part of it is like, oh, we wouldn't be able to survive it. But the other part of it is like, man, when you have a kid, it is just like, even though not having my mom here, which is obviously like the worst part of it, that, hey, we're like back in Texas, but my mom isn't with us. That just feels like, yeah, the worst thing ever. But to be so close to my dad and my brother, and they're both helping us out so much with baby, and to just be close to family, like that feels so different when you have a kid, just for her to have like cousins to play with. And Texas has its own issues for sure, and it's so freaking hot, but things really are just like so much easier here with a kid. And rent, we have like the same size house that we're renting, but it's literally half what we were paying in North Hollywood. And so yeah, the other part is we kind of like, we're in a position where I don't think we could actually afford to move to California right now. Just because all of the stuff that happened, I mean, at least for me, I like literally just stopped working for a long time. And when I say stopped working, I was still working on like my own personal projects, like studio setup and stuff like that behind the scenes, just because I'm so desperate for like a new path. But for the traditional, just like branded content, like it did not compute in my brain. I'm like, I cannot do this. I can't explain how much I don't want to do this when I'm dealing with like all of this health shit. It just like was way too much. And so, yeah, it was like the first year that I essentially like lived off of investments, right? For the first time in probably like 5-6 years, I like actually cashed in a substantial part of my like investment portfolio to just like live and exist, because like my income, it didn't completely stop. It just was cut into, I was probably bringing in like a fifth or a sixth of what I would normally bring in. Anyways, all of that to say, we're definitely not going back to New York City. That's not going to happen. I don't think we're going to be back in California. I really did enjoy our time there. I enjoyed it more than I thought. I mean, initially it started as a thing that we're just moving there for John. Like, okay, he's been so supportive of kind of where I felt like the best place was for both of us, but California was always his place. So it started out as one of those things like, all right, we can move to your place. Let's test it out. But it actually was nice because we had friends. The nature there is really great with walking and stuff. But when it comes to like raising a family and honestly just having flexibility to say, no, I don't want to do work. I want to work on this side project that hopefully is my new work. In order to have that flexibility, things can't be like super expensive, DFW has gotten so expensive compared to what it was like when I grew up. Definitely not the most affordable place to be in. But when you're comparing it to New York and LA, it is still night and day. And in terms of like the parks that kids can go to, and I have some community here. We've been so busy with stuff that I feel like I haven't been hanging out with people as much as I want to, but that'll come. That's a part of, you know, when we get our life in order. That's something we're excited to like explore, hanging out with friends again, getting more baby friends. And so yeah, I think we're in Texas, and at least for now. And I really don't see the final decision of like specifically where in DFW we're gonna be. I don't think that has to be made until like baby girl goes into kindergarten or stuff. So we have a few years. I think in the back of our head, like me and John, we kind of do think about Austin because there's a tech scene down there. There's a podcasting YouTube scene down there. It like nature wise, it has more stuff than DFW. But then it's like we would have to have a super big community of like friends with babies who are also entrepreneurs. Like we would have to have something so compelling to bring us down there, like away from our family here, in the Dallas area, that it's just like a no-brainer. So we're keeping like options open, but that's basically where we're at. It's Texas. And I think I said this I think I said this in an Instagram. At the end of the day, where I live is no longer a part of my personality. And so hopefully the stuff I'm making, it doesn't matter where I am. Who cares, you know? In my 20s, it was fun to kind of like move to new apartments every year in New York or LA, and you're making New York, you know, apartment tours and stuff. That became like a whole section of YouTube. And that is, who cares anymore? Hopefully I can make enough compelling stuff outside of, you know, where I live and where I'm doing it that you still care, you know? So, you know, this might be like the only time I talk about it. And then maybe in 5 to 10 years, we're building our dream house, or we're renovating a house, and maybe we'll do YouTube content about that. But until then, who cares where I live? But if you're curious, it's Dallas, Texas. The burbs. We're in the burbs. We're not even, when we moved here the first time, we were living like right in the center of Fort Worth, Texas. And that was interesting. We just had so much drama with our condo. But we're in the burbs now. So that's what we're doing. Video 2 for Sara Peachy, #2 YouTube channel. Let's see how long I can keep this going. Just flexing the muscle of hitting record and hitting that upload button. Bye, guys.